Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. We discuss real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and business to help you retire and become financially free. Make sure you share this podcast with someone who could benefit from it and leave us a 5-star review. It truly helps me out. This show will mentor you towards financial freedom. If I can do it, so can you.
Welcome to the Troy Kearns Podcast. We talk all things real estate, business, entrepreneurship. Today, I've got my good friend, property manager of 13 years, realtor of 13 years, and somebody who manages all of my Section 8 properties that I currently have in Mississippi, Alain Harpin.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, Alain, tell me about who you are, how you know about Section 8, how many properties that you manage are in Section 8, how many inspections you deal with on a month, and that whole thing.
Yeah, so, I've been working together, as you mentioned, about 13 years. We manage several hundred units. Probably 100 of those are Section 8 properties. So, you want to, what's the process like in that whole start to finish?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could take it through from the beginning. If I get a property on Section 8, or I get a house, I want to rent it out, you're going to put it out for rent. Is there anything different that you do for putting it out for Section 8 right away, just to advertise it?
Well, no, we advertise properties all the same way. I think there's a big misconception out there. A lot of people that are getting into this business and hear about Section 8 say, hey, what do I need to do to get on with the housing authority? And there's really nothing you have to do other than market your property. It's all about the tenant that's got an application and a voucher through the housing authority that will approach owners or property managers to rent the property.
All right. One thing that floats out often is if I have a 3 or 4 year lease, does that avoid my yearly inspection?
No.
Okay.
Inspections take place, and I think this is geography based, anywhere from a year to a year and a half. They used to be a year, and the last couple of years, we've been getting notifications that we're going to do the next one in 18 months.
Okay. Now, another misconception that I hear a lot of these guys talk about online is that I can get between 10 and 30% more than the going rent for a Section 8 property. Is that true?
Well, if you're saying I can get 10 to 30% more than market rate, now the answer is no. The housing authority looks at houses across, a community and determines what that house will rent for. An average house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath property, with average amenities. That's a number that they determine the house has value at. And then there's a calculation within a range of rental rates based on the renter's need. Okay, depending.
Can you give me an example? Let's take a property that I own. I think one that's a pretty good Section 8 property is that property on 33rd Street, the brick house.
Right.
I'm pretty sure we've had that one Section 8 for a long time.
Yeah, probably, if not the whole time, probably 90 or 80% of the time that it's been out there. But
got it. So on that one, what would be the normal, if you were to rent that out without Section 8, what would be the normal rent that you would get on that? And then talk us through the bedroom count and bathroom count on that one.
Well, that house would typically rent for, in that market, if it's cash, the thing is cash is never going to equal what the housing authority rates are at. And if they're not being specific by explaining that to, the investors, that's kind of the misconception. The housing authority does not determine the tier of a neighborhood, or does not determine the rate based on the tier of the neighborhood, typically. So if it's a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, those all have an average rental rate across the board.
So you are, what county are we talking about that property being in?
Harrison County, Mississippi.
All right. So we go Mississippi here. We go, Albion, Texas. I don't want that. So how many bedrooms is that?
I think that was 5.
What zip code is it in?
39501.
So am I getting $1,500 a month rent for that property?
No. On that one, yeah, we're getting 1,075.
Why am I not getting 1,500 if it says it's a 4 bedroom and it says on here? Because this is what these guys are saying. They're saying what it says on here is what you get.
Because that's not always true. We'll market the property, and based on the need of the tenant, we'll get up to that range.
Well, I
And
think it says it right here. Using zip code as a basis for fair market rents, tenants greater ability to move into opportunity neighborhoods with jobs, public transportation. They also provide for multiple payment standards in the metropolitan area. They are likely to reduce need for extensive area market rent, reasonable studies. Lastly, HUD hopes that setting FMRs for each zip code will reduce overpayment in lower rent areas. So what you're saying is basically they're not overpaying, right?
right.
So let's go to the next thing. I want to go through. We kind of went through that. I want to go through a couple of these guys' claims. Let's go to this guy right now. What's your initial responses to that?
Yeah, well, that's really kind of best case scenario all the way around, and not something that I would bank on. I would tread lightly with those kinds of guarantees. Those are best case scenarios. And listen, different markets pay different amounts and have different uh, uh, um, guidelines to achieving those rent rates. But again, when we're talking about those percentage increases, I'm not sure what he means other than based on that, comparing that to cash. Because look, they're going to always pay what the market will bear. They've got their own metrics, but they're going to pay greater than cash based on those neighborhoods. Now, if you have an A-tier property, uh, you know, you can get the same kind of cash that you get from Section 8. But the thing is, you're not going to buy A-tier neighborhoods for Section 8 properties. So, the thing is, Section 8 will always will maximize your return. And you do have the guarantees. You got the COVID guarantees, you got the recession guarantees. They pay the rents. Um, but we both know that there are other things that come with that.
Can you talk about those?
Well, the other things that come with that are that we know tenants in Section 8 are traditionally much harder on the properties. And so, there's a calculation, in the cost of doing business. Yes, you're going to get guaranteed rents. Yes, you're going to maximize the rents in those neighborhoods. And yes, you're going to have more costs associated with the repairs on taking care of those properties, flipping those properties, the neighborhoods, and look, we've got people that we've in your properties, we know we've had drive-by shootings, things like that. So those things run tenants off. So yeah, I mean, there are a host of other costs associated with those upsides.
This
Again,
guy said something else. He didn't say it in this video, but he said that the average tenant stays in a Section 8 property for 7 years.
no, that is like not even close to being true. Here's what we've found with Section 8 tenants. Now, a very, very small percentage of them, and I mean a very small, maybe 5% in my experience of doing this 15 years plus, will stay in homes, greater than, 3 or 4 years. A very small percentage. Most of these people are very hard on the properties, and they're habitual renters. And so what they do is they kind of roll through one property for a couple of years, and then they roll into another one. And because the authority requires that the houses meet certain requirements, you can't put a house on the market or rent through them unless it meets their standards. You know that very clearly. And so these people kind of roll through these properties. It's like every couple of years, every 3 years at the most, in my experience, they want a new property because it's going to be fresh because they've trashed. And I say that somewhat tongue in cheek. They are very hard on these properties. They're hard on the paint, hard on the appliances, hard on the kitchen cabinetry. You name it. Anything that can go wrong happens in these houses because they're so
Well, they don't have any money. A lot of times they have no money in the deal, right?
they got no money. And in fact, I've had people tell me this past week, why do I have to change the air filter in that air conditioner? I said, because you're the tenant and it's in your lease. Well, it's not me, it's not my house. I'm not doing it. And so, you've got a lot of these things that people are just like, that's not my responsibility. I'm not doing a thing. You own the house, the housing authority's paying my rent, and you know what? That's my contract. You know, they are that a lot of them are under the impression and will take the attitude that I'm not doing nothing. I'm not taking care of this. I'm not even cleaning. I don't care.
All right, so that's kind of what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so let's go to the next one. What do you think about that?
Well, again, you know, it's kind of, those are all probably best case scenarios. You know, we've never had a shortage of people that have Section 8 vouchers. I mean, they're constantly turning over properties, and the voucher you know, allotment, I guess, in our community continues to go up. That's not ever going to be a problem as far as I'm concerned. We don't ever have a problem renting those units out. I don't quite understand this whole thing about, you know, his 10% down or whatever calculation he has about the down payment. I guess if he's financing the property, you know, I don't hear any calculation about cost to improve. Now, he did say, you know, that thing needs to be turnkey, which, you know, we all want turnkey properties when we buy them. You know, we want the best value for the least amount of money. That goes without saying. But
Yeah, so I mean, kind of the thing is on that one, things that jump out at me is number one, like you just mentioned, drive-by shooting. Like you're finding the unicorn with this video. Like you know what I
yes,
mean? Like the
yes.
property that's turnkey that somebody wants to sell that's Section 8 ready, that gets the highest amount of rent that is in a great area with no crime. Does that exist?
No, well, the real question is, why are you selling that property? Right?
Yeah,
Because,
I mean, but
you
I mean,
know,
you've done this a long time. Does that exist?
it really
Sometimes
doesn't.
it gets you to question your own logic when you start seeing these guys on here spewing bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that guy, like, okay, what the, you know what I mean? Like, are we doing something wrong here? Like,
The funny thing is, you know, yes, exactly. You know, you guys buy properties on a regular basis. I mean, right now, you and John have, you know, we've got, I mean, in the past, you know, probably, I don't know, 80, 90 days, you guys have had 3 or 4 properties go under contract that we spun out one or two of them. And, you know, we've been able to drive good pricing on them relative to the market, but there's not one of these houses that's a unicorn like that. They all have warts. They're all going to need repairs. You know, we get lucky sometimes because we're the first. That's really what it's about. It's about being the first. There is no great property sitting out there waiting for you to pull it off Realtor.com. Realtors are out there looking for these properties. Guys like you are out there scouring the neighborhoods looking for these properties. These things do not exist in volume. In this economy, when you and I first started doing business 12, 13 years ago, there was a whole lot of them out there for great, you know, great money. That's not the
let's talk
case
about
today.
the crime. Like you find, you said there's drive-by shooting. There's, I mean, is low crime indicative of Section 8 generally?
No, it's not because again, if low crime was an issue, you know, was a typical trait of one of these properties, you'd be getting cash because cash payers are much better payers. They're much better tenants. They take care of this stuff. And so it goes hand in hand. High crime goes hand in hand with Section 8, lower tier neighborhoods. I mean, that's why you do the Section 8 in the first place, because you'll never maximize your cash returns.
Okay. So step one, this is your 2025 Section 8 business plan. Set up a Wyoming LLC. Find houses under 100K in Ohio, Louisiana, or Florida. Get a 10% DSCR loan. Do a virtual closing. Rent a house to Section 8. Profit $500 to $800 per month. Get a property management. Repeat. Seems pretty simple.
Yeah, except it's not. It's just not simple.
It's easy, dude. These guys are saying it's easy, Elaine. They're saying it like all I got to do is pay them. Now, that's the other thing is like you've been renting out properties for a long time. Let's talk about that. You recently, I don't know, call it 10. How many years have you been flipping real estate now?
Yeah, probably 6 or 7 years now.
I think longer, bro. Because I think you did your first one with Jeff, like, I don't know.
In 15. Yeah, okay, so okay, close to 10 years, put it that way.
Yeah. So the other thing that blows my mind is these guys. Have you've been renting out to a lot of people in a lot of different areas. Have you ever seen anybody scale as fast as me?
With my clients, no.
Okay.
Absolutely not, no.
So these guys are saying that like one of the guys says he owns 105 properties. He bought them in the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And the other guy's up to 1,000, I think now, or something like that. And he's been doing it for the last 7 or 8 years. And so, my big thing is like, you've done banks, you've done lending, or you've worked with banks, you've worked with different lenders. You know, they are generally not going to loan you money on an asset that's not performing based on like a piece of crap asset unless you're an experienced investor. You know what I mean? It's just not that easy to get a loan. People think like, oh, well, I'll just go get a loan. But the reality is that if you're going to get a loan, you're going to either use a bank or a mortgage broker, right? They're going to require generally at least minimum 20% down, minimum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're going to have improvement costs in that deal. Then you're going to have holding costs in that deal. Most of the properties that we buy, we pay for cash, but we still have holding costs. So if I'm going and let's say I'm buying a property, let's say I'm buying a property for $70,000 in your area, which would be reasonable, right?
Yeah, today.
And it's, for argument's sake of this, it's turnkey. Doesn't need a damn thing. How quickly are you going to fill that property up? Like how long is it going to take to actually get my rent check?
Yeah, okay. So if we can get that property on the market, it's going to take 30 to 45 days to rent that property.
Best case scenario, right?
Well, I'd say in typical scenario. I mean, if it's that's really not going to be the issue. It's turnkey. It looks good. The pictures are looking good, and it has what people are looking for. It's going to rent in 30 to 45 days.
And
unless the rent's not competitive.
Take me through the inspection process. What has to happen for me to get my money on Section 8?
Yeah, so they expect, and again, every metro area has slightly different requirements. And in the last, 10 years, the requirements have changed a lot. They used to like to go in and they were very, very supportive. They'd say, look, here's what we got. You guys, we want this, and this, to meet spec. And, so we would take care of it. Now it's like you have to read their mind, and these guys are not even on the same page oftentimes. The inspectors are all different. The playbook is almost like this secret that they don't want to share with you. I've had that happen to me. But the point is, the house has to meet certain health and safety requirements, right? It's got to have.
Can you break it down like the things that your company kind of looks for, like when you're trying to make sure that you pass? Because you already know what you need to do to pass. So and then there's obviously, like you said, there's going to be things that the inspector says, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do the other thing. So talk me through the things that they're going to kind of require.
They're all they're all very simple issues. Standing on the outside of the home, the house has got to have paint that's not peeling from the house. It can't have any rot. It's got to have a roof that looks to be in good condition. Now, they're not roof inspectors, but they're looking at the structural and the exterior of the home. You go on inside. The flooring has to be intact. You can't have any damage to it. The trim, the fixtures, whether they're light fixtures, faucets, they have to be working. They can't leak. You can't have plumbing that doesn't work properly. You can't have any damages to the walls. Everything has got to be, in the words of that one YouTuber, turnkey. So everything, it's just like any other property. It's like your home. Everything's got to work. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration that when you walk through these houses, and they're typically never going to be like that. There's always something that needs to be done. So there's quite, look, the lists that we put together. I put together 25 items right out of the gate, walking through these properties that need to be addressed so that we can meet the requirements.
He makes sure he gets that watch in there every single time, huh?
Yeah, I know, and the Rolls-Royce logo on the headrest. But look, he said some good things. Those are the things that that you follow, and make sure that you have LLC friendly states that you book your business with. Make sure that they're the rent friendly states that you buy your properties in. Mississippi.
Right, totally agree.
There are some things that are absolutely true there. But I'm doing the calculation of him making $800 clear a month on that property. I don't see how it exists. First of all, there's no 3.79 interest rate today. So
he's saying he's getting owner financing for that deal, is what he's saying.
Yeah, well, we both know that that's not possible. Why would I learned this from you a long time ago. If the interest rate is 5%, you're not going to give it away. At 2%, you're going to want, 7 or 8%. So, because you're taking all the risk. An owner financed would not give an interest rate less than what's current out there, or considerably less in my estimation.
Unless you had a really large down payment.
Well, of course.
Yeah, I mean, like if I was to give sell a $100,000 property, the guy gives me $50,000 down. I don't really care about the interest as much, right? But like, this is the guy saying that you can get in for little to no money down, and you get an extremely low interest rate, and then you're turning it day one
Yeah.
for $800 a month profit guaranteed.
Well, yeah, the whole thing is that anytime, someone says it's guaranteed, we both know that real estate's speculative. There's no guarantee. And so, best case scenario, you've had some serious home runs, okay? But we've also had a lot of things that are mostly, middle of the road. And that's really where this whole business is. It's, you're in a model of volume and, kind of hitting, singles and doubles all the time, keeping the cash flow, trying to keep expenses down, keeping purchase prices down. I mean, that's what wins in this business. Looking for best case scenarios is, again, looking for that unicorn that you mentioned earlier.
Man, I am so happy that you turned into the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. It's something that I've been working on for over 3 years right now. We're up to 150 podcast episodes. A lot of them are virtual. A lot of them are in studio, which is what we prefer. If you have a guest that you think that should be on our podcast, all you gotta do is comment who it is, and we'll reach out to them. Or if you want to reach out to them and reach out to us, we'd love to have them on a show. We're looking for entertaining, inspirational people that, just like you hear on the podcast every week, that can bring value and help our listening audience achieve their goals. If that's something for you, comment down below and let us know. So this is the OG. I believe that the first guy copied this guy's playbook. And so I kind of wanted to, we'll go through a couple of his videos.
Now, I will say one thing. Well, these guys, they're all successful. They're high performing guys. That you're a high performing guy. You're gonna do well because that's the the part of the atmosphere that you come from. And I respect all these guys that can do all this because there's something that they all have, but most people don't have that. And so, what works for them doesn't work for the average bear. It'll work for a lot of high performers, but you have to be an extremely high performing individual to really approach these types of statistics that they're quoting.
Let's look at this. What do you think about that?
Well, I've had that happen to me, I think once, where the tenant died and their voucher went on to their children, but their children were living there. And the whole thing is it's still need-based. There is no guarantee that, someone's going to inherit that voucher. And then the same thing applies to those people that inherit it, if in fact that they do. They've got to continue to, do what they have a requirement with the housing authority too. So,
but what about the $2,500 down?
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. I don't know how you can buy a house for that.
Any reactions? This stuff is kind of all over the place.
Well, I like how I want a Roger too. I kind of like that idea about doing the lease thing. That's kind of been floating out there recently about how you get these squatters out of there. Again, $2,500 down. I want a Roger too, but I mean, I don't know if Roger's on the payroll.
He's got all the answers, doesn't he?
Well, he does. If Roger's on payroll, I hope he's doing more than getting squatters out, because squatters are an exception, and there's very few of them out there. We've had I don't know, half a dozen in 10 years. So they're not that common.
We've had a couple fires.
We've had a couple fires, and the insurance paid off handsomely on a couple of them.
Yeah. The bottom line is, what I'm trying to say is Section 8 is not easy. It requires an intense, great manager. Would you say that managing a Section 8 property takes longer than managing a cash paying property?
Yeah, rule. 20%, or rather 80% of all your problems come from 20% of your properties, which are your Section 8 properties. It's a tremendous amount of work. It's constant all the time.
Would you say if I can go there out of state, never have to go there, never have to look at it, anything, be able to, find a for sale by owner with a low interest rate, $2,500 down to $15,000 down, immediately begin cash flowing day one, month one, $500 to $800 a month. And then these guys never talk about the turn. Can you talk about the turn and kind of react to what I just said?
Well, yeah. So you can do those things, but you have to have, you know, you have to have some tools in place, and one of those tools is you got to have somebody that they can look at the property for you, to confirm what you think you know based on what somebody's selling you, and then you got to have somebody that can manage the property and navigate through the Section 8 process. And the issue is, a lot of companies, I mean, they don't want to deal with the Section
Yeah.
8 problems because of the 80/20 rule. They're a
Right.
lot harder to deal with. And it's like they're not forgiving. So you can do all that, but you have to have tools in place. If you're a new guy, look, some of your students have come to me. They found some wholesale deals, and but they had someone they could reach out to. And so, I go out and look at the property. Somebody's got to look at the property. Somebody's got to determine, the market rent for
People will do that for free though for you, right?
Oh, yeah, nobody works for free. Nobody works for free. But there's a whole lot of paying it forward in my business, in order.
That's true. That's 100% true. Good. There's goodwill, right? Based
Yeah.
on who recommended you or something like that. But
Yes.
I mean, those people probably wouldn't be able to get you to even look at the property unless they were referred by me, I would imagine.
You're right about that, because I get people that call, semi-regular, can you help me with this? And, basically they're asking for me to go out and do stuff for them without guaranteeing they're going to shop me against other people. And so, yeah, I learned a long time ago that we don't go out and chase rainbows for people that we don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Um, Talk to me about how many properties that you guys have under management right now. When you started with me, I don't know if you remember, but you were managing 20 to 25 properties for another person. I had constantly asked you, I'm like, dude, can you manage these properties for me? And then it was basically be telling you I'm pulling out of the market unless you do. And I was like, it's going to be good for your business, which I believe it has been. Because you were kind of chasing your tail at that point in time. You're doing property management, selling real estate, doing all those types of things. But how many properties do you currently manage right now
I think
for
we
other
have
people?
somewhere around 380. Um, and they fluctuate. They go up and down. Guys come and go. You've sold, dozen or so properties in the last few years. So our numbers have been kind of, moving up and down at around, that number right there,
Close
375.
to 400.
Yeah. But so I'm not sure where we're going with this again.
But just, kind of based on that, like how I'm just trying to get a grasp of how many properties you manage so that like people could understand that a lot of people don't want to do Section 8. Like, in fact, in Vegas, the other thing they'll talk about is these fourplexes and the Section 8 tenants on that. A lot of property managers would not touch Section 8. And I believe the only reason that some of them do is because they have big clients that are like, hey, you know what I mean? I need you to do this, and that'll
Absolutely.
help you bring other business.
80/20 rule. These people, these investors that come in, they buy and sell properties through these companies. And so, there's an income stream there. It's a very different stream. It's a small margin stream, but it's a volume thing. And as you and I have discussed so many times through the years, you have to have several streams of business. And this one is, it's a very steady stream, but it requires a lot of work.
I got a really great question for you. What do you think is a better way to make money in real estate as a beginner? Flipping a property or Section 8? What's going to give you the better return?
Flipping. I would flip a house before I do Section 8.
Yeah, I mean, Section 8 is not going to move the needle, is what I'm basically saying. Like, if you're going to go spend money on a course to learn how to do Section 8, it's a strategy. And then there's a lot of real estate strategies that we've talked about. I think you've learned a bunch. We know a bunch that we've done together. But when you flip a house, you might put, what's the most money you've made on a flip?
I don't know, $80,000 maybe.
80,000. What's the most money you've made on a Section 8 rental property?
Well, yeah, maybe $160 a month. The 10% is well, actually, I got a $2,700 a month rent right now, so we're making $270 a month. So yeah, you gotta have lots and lots of these to make ends meet. You know, you look at that. Okay, so say the average rent's $1,000 a month. It's $100. Okay, you got a property manager making 35, 40 grand a year. Then you got an assistant. Then you got an office manager. Then you got a bookkeeper. These things are thousands of dollars. You need hundreds of properties to make ends meet. And that's just to do it right. If you're a one-arm paper hanger, you're not managing your client's business. It's just it's so labor intense.
Well, talk to me about that. Like, what does your team look like that manages the properties for you?
Okay, so I got a front desk person who is an assistant manager. Then I have the manager. I've got a bookkeeper that handles all my financials. I've got an office manager that manages the office, and then I've got uh, a couple of people up in HR. Okay, and so I might be a little fat there. But the point, and then I have a maintenance department. I got a maintenance manager, and he's got three guys that work for him. There's a ton of people in my business. There's a ton of payroll that I have to make ends meet, and that's to and
Must
that
be killing. You must be killing it.
yeah, I'm not killing it. I am not killing it. You
That's,
you
that's
you know my financial picture. Look, I make ends meet. I am not hurting, and I don't have a want, but I'm a pretty simple guy.
Yeah, my biggest thing was like, I always tell people, man, if you're gonna go spend the money, you're gonna get coaching, you're gonna get into real estate. Don't believe the flashy thing from the flashy guys telling you how simple and easy things are. I also believe that when you flip a property, and this is why I tell a lot of the guys who are brand new, never done anything in real estate, I'm like, you just need to flip a house because the confidence that builds and the money that builds from doing that is a game changer, which would allow you to then invest in rental properties that we know the long-term play is, because if you don't buy rental properties, you freaking really miss out on a lot of upside, a lot of cash flow, a lot of tax benefits from owning those properties. But I think that the two there's strategies. If you do one like unilaterally, if I just own rental properties, I have to go make money to buy those rental properties,
Right.
right? Like, and if I can't just finance my way into existence, it just doesn't work that way. Like, I got to raise capital,
Right.
and I can't. I'm even if I'm the most clever guy in the entire world, I'm not going to be able to talk enough people into seller financing me their deals, and then I'm not going to talk enough people into managing my properties for free for me and looking at extra stuff for me, and then doing all those other things. So my point is, if somebody's brand new and they're thinking about getting started in real estate investing, which do you think is the best strategy for them? Section 8, flipping, or is there another one?
Well, it's all hard.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
true.
So even look, um, I got my first rentals before I flipped my first houses, but I was
Right.
able to do it through an owner finance. So we both know that that's probably that is the best way to go about it. Owner finance it with like,
Yeah.
little to no money down. But and those are the unicorns, but they're out there. It's, how did you become successful? Because you tirelessly work every single angle every single day. And so, yeah, you'll find the unicorns among all the other average, single
Yeah, they
adult.
exist. I mean, they happen. You get a home run every once in a while,
You do.
but you get hit by a pitch too.
Yeah, you sure do. It's hard. Look, to answer your question, you gotta have some money. I mean, these guys that are like down on their luck, have no money, and somehow lucked up, that is not that is not typical. That one guy that said 6% of all realtors, make $100,000 a year. You know what? That is the truth.
Yeah,
That
it's true.
Yeah, when I first started selling real estate, my broker used to tell me, Elaine, 10% of all the realtors that you'll ever meet are the ones that are going to be successful. Well, that's that same kind of attitude. They come and they go. It doesn't matter what business you're in.
Right.
But you got to have money to buy a property, and you got to have some kind of, you know, intuition. You got to have some kind of idea how to manage your stuff because it'll evaporate in a minute.
Yeah. I mean, it just happened. So you flipped, how many properties have you flipped now?
I don't know, 15 properties. Not that many.
Yeah. But you got a couple going at any point in time.
I do. I always have a couple going. I got a couple that have been going for a while now, but
They sometimes take a little bit of time.
yeah.
What do you think? What gets you more excited? Man, by acquiring more Section 8 properties or flipping a house and making the money?
Yeah, well, for me, it's really flipping houses. It appeals to a certain sense, but like that's me. These guys, the 21-year-old guy and that other guy that are like, look, I got 100 properties and, I'm making bank and I see, the Rolls-Royce logo. Well, what is it that really, is going to excite you? I don't know, but what excites me is flipping a house because, there's real tangible money that can occur in a relatively short amount of time.
Well, I think that they understand what sells and sexy things sell, right? And so they're not making the money from the properties, they're making the money selling the courses. And as somebody who also has sold courses, I can tell you that that also is, you know, like we sell our course. I think we started for $3,500. We're selling it for $10,000 now. But I think the best month we've ever had was like, I don't know, $100,000. And that money goes by quick because, the next month you might bring on one person and you still have overhead, you still have advertising, you still have everything. But if you're selling something that you're really not doing and you're really kind of embellishing everything and you're making it sound super easy, and then you get these first time investors who get crushed. Oh, I did want to see one other thing real quick. 5K to teach you how to do Section 8. So is that
Yeah.
something that you think is a good idea to spend $5,000 to learn how to do a Section 8 property?
Well, they can send me the check for 5 grand, and I'll be happy to, give them all kinds of time, all kinds of lip service. That's huge money.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of people out there that are searching for that opportunity that nobody sees except that it's just not out there. There's no substitute. It's all about you.
Same here. I got scammed by him trying to recover my money now. He's straight up lied on the webinar, used very shady, untruthful pressure tactics. I've been looking for a legitimate way to invest for real estate. And that's the thing is like, if you're looking for a legitimate way, like you got to see past the bullshit, like people. I always tell people like Google my name. Let's see what comes up. I haven't done it in a while. Troy Kern's scam.
Yeah, well, we all have the naysayers. I got people that accuse me of being a slumlord, and it's the
Oh,
furthest from the truth.
that is my nickname. Like
Yeah,
my nickname is Slumlord. What we always say is that we provide affordable housing. I mean, do you take great pride in the properties that you take care of?
I mean, I guess the answer is yes, because we want to deliver, good properties. We want to take care of the properties for all our clients. And so, yeah, that's a pride thing, but I think it's also, it's just a desire thing. You want to do a good job and you have certain standards. And so you got to meet them. And there's no substitute for doing a good job. So if you call that pride, okay, call it pride. But I think it has to do with, needing to do the right thing for everybody concerned, includes the tenants.
Yeah.
There's a balance between, you know, providing the best service that I can for my client and providing, that person allowing me to put that house together so we can put somebody in there. And it is tough because those people terrorize these homes to some degree.
Yeah.
And but you still got to put them back together. The most important thing is taking care of the property, not so much because these people, you want to give that property, this good property to somebody that needs it. You got to take care of the property because if you don't, we both know, if you don't manage your property and take care of it in a couple of years, all that deferred maintenance just gets trashed. So it's really upkeep for me, and everything else falls into place.
That's cool. If you were to go back, talk to your younger self, um, before you went and did all these other jobs and stuff like that, knowing what you do know now, what would you do and what would you advise other people to do?
Yeah, I would have been, trying to buy my first property. I wouldn't have gone to college. I
Amen.
would, I would have, I would have figured out how to get into real estate right away. It is the best business. It's a fantastic business. I love it.
So all those things said and done, all the problems, all the fires, all the drive-by shootings, it's the best business. It's provided you the lifestyle that you want. You just recently purchased kind of your dream situation. You want to tell us about that?
Well, yeah, I'm from the Northeast, and I got to get back home eventually. And I've been down here, raised three kids. Married my wife from the South, and I bought a house, up in Massachusetts on the Cape, and I got a foothold there. So that's my first property. I'll probably retire out there, and as soon as I hopefully sell this next flip, that's kind of my next goal, to buy another one out there and maybe kind of move
Give me
up.
a heads up. Give me a heads up because once you retire in Mississippi, so do I. Okay, so
Yeah, well, I don't plan on retiring anytime soon, but yeah, there will be an exit strategy for sure.
yeah, 100%. Man, I appreciate you coming on. It's Sunday, about ready to take family photos. My kids are now 11. We've known each other for 13 years, and it's been a great time. I really appreciate all your trust, all your hard work. I know that you've always been there. We've had some turbulent times. We've been at each other's throats before, but I mean, I think you know what my feelings are for you, and likewise. And I really appreciate everything, and I'm glad that you've been able to. I thought it was really cool that like you came at the age and were able to do that last little deal with your brother in the Cape. Basically going. You got some crazy high prices on your property, so you decided to fly back and forth and basically do the work your damn self, which was
Right.
cool.
It was cool, and but yeah, thank you. And then it goes ditto. You've been an inspiration for me for the last 13 years.
Let's rock and roll, baby. Okay, cool, man. Well, I hope to see you soon. I'll be down in Mississippi. And then, guys, if you want to get started in real estate, get started. It doesn't matter if you hire a coach. It doesn't matter if you do Section 8. It doesn't matter if you flip a house. I'm not trying to tell, just like I think what Elaine said is just get started doing something and then figure out which strategy that you're going to use. But don't keep listening to podcasts, keep consuming information. Do it. Don't be a freaking scaredy cat. Get in there. Do the freaking thing that you've been putting off. Don't and if you don't have the money and you think that you're going to get some Rolls Royce or some fancy car by paying some dude, myself even, a bunch of money for you to not do the work, you got to have to do the work. Like that's it, right?
Mm-hmm. Take the leap.
How do they follow you on your socials? How do they get a hold of you? If they have got a property in Harrison, Jackson County, Mississippi, how do they get a hold of Alain Harpin and his team at Southern Way Realty?
SouthernWayRealtyLLC.com.
Southern Way Realty LLC.com.
Yeah.
What do you guys charge for property management services?
10%.
Have I negotiated that over the last 13 years?
No, you've been a staunch advocate of me earning my keep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't renegotiate when you got a good guy. It's going to make him feel bitter. It's going to make them freaking not want to work for you and figure out another way to make that money.
You've worked me down everywhere else you could get, but
Touche.